I broke my right femur in half, which if you don't know out
Oh,
there,
damn.
that's the hardest bone to break in your body. I managed to break it in half. Broken femur,
Wow.
I chipped my right hip. I broke 3 ribs on the left side. My ribs punctured my lung, and I also bruised my liver. If that ain't a wake up call, what is? Something like that happens, and you're kind of sitting there in the hospital bed, and you're like, okay, I probably need to make some changes.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ronin Mindset podcast. Today, we've got a very special treat. Good friend of mine I've known for several years. He is a best-selling author, a speaker, a neuro-linguistic programming or master, NLP master, and all-around badass. So, everybody, Coach Quentin McCain, or Coach Q.
Thank you for having me, my man.
It's a pleasure. And you know exactly why I wanted you on this podcast, because we speak the same language in terms of mindset. And I know a little bit about your background. It's always been very inspiring to me, like what you came from and then what you've been able to accomplish. Kind of give us a little bit about your background, man. Like early childhood, like the lockjaw days.
Oh man. So yeah, definitely. Growing up, I grew up single parent home with my mom. She did her best to veer me the right way, but as we get around influences and we're out there in the world, sometimes we don't take that path. And I was out there running the streets, man. I was out there running the streets, hanging out with the thugs and the gang members, and yeah, doing the things that thugs and gang members do.
Well, yeah, you were a straight up gang member for a while,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Out there in the streets and getting in fights and yeah, all kind of stuff. Yeah, definitely.
Living that life. Living not exactly the background that a lot of people who end up, successful. You don't it's a lot of see people going from run the streets, gang member, thug, dancing, tiptoeing on the edge of prison to becoming a best-selling author, national speaker, international speaker, really, and kind of accomplishing the things that you've accomplished.
Yeah, no, you don't hear it often, and honestly, even people in my close circle, I'm talking about, even some family was like, man, like, yeah, he ain't gonna make it. Like, you're going to prison or you're gonna end up dead. And honestly, staying on that road, if I would have stayed on that road, that's what it would have been.
Well, those are the two paths that life generally leads to.
That's right. That's right.
So what was it, especially from a mindset, how did you make that change? How did you get off that path you were on? What was going on in your head that made you go a different way? And not only just made you want to go a different way, I'm sure there's a lot of guys in that life who would like a different life,
Right.
who would like to follow a different path. But, from what I understand, due to influences and everything else, it's very difficult to get out of that life. And how are you able to make that transition? And how did you choose to focus on what you focus on?
Right. Yeah, I'm actually glad you said that, some people want to get out of that life, because it's interesting that even though I was doing those things, I was running the streets, I wanted to be the toughest dude, right? Even though I was living that life, there was always kind of something in the back of my head that was like, yeah, this ain't what you're going to always be like. Like there was something there, that was just always like, this ain't it for you. This ain't the end of the road. So I feel like whether it's intuition, right? However anyone wants to say it, whether it's God, intuition, just like the universe nudging me, right? But I think that we get those, we just have to listen, right? We get those hunches, but we just have to listen to it. So I always kind of knew, like, I don't think this is it for me.
So how did you make that transition then? You felt that, maybe, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a higher calling, or however you want to phrase it, but having that and then turning it into a reality. How'd you make that transition?
Yeah, you're right. Two different things, right? But yeah, so you feel that.
You could think about it all day long.
I felt that nudge, but then I also had what I feel, what I call life's alarm clocks, right? The wake up calls, right? That just happened to pop up. For one, I got in a big accident when I was about 18 years old, where I was leaving my then girlfriend's house, and I fell asleep at the wheel, and I crashed into a light pole, like the metal freaking light pole that you see on the side of the road, and that was one of those wake up calls because like I say
Okay.
in some of my speeches, it's like I wasn't only sleeping at the wheel that night, I was sleeping through life, just going and
Yeah.
coasting, right? And that was a big one. I woke up to a broken femur. I broke my right femur in half, which, if you don't know out
Oh,
there,
damn.
that's the hardest bone to break in your body. But I managed to break it in half. So broken femur.
Wow.
I chipped my right hip on. Yeah, I chipped my right hip. I broke 3 ribs on the left side, and my ribs punctured my left lung, and I also bruised my liver, so had internal bruising. So if that ain't a wake up call, what is? Something like that happens, and you're kind of sitting there in the hospital bed, and you're like, okay, I probably need to make some changes in my life, right? That's when you get that real wake up call where you're like, I'm not invincible. I can die.
100%. That can be a wake up call for sure. And besides, you're getting a lot of time laying in that hospital bed to do a little self
Oh
reflection.
yeah,
A lot of time in your own head.
exactly.
So was that like the turning point for you?
I've been asked that question over the years, and I think that my answer is there's not really one turning point, but it's just like an accumulation, right? Like you got the nudges that we talked about. Then, I had the accident. And then there's, of course, scary run ins when I was in the street. I've been robbed at gunpoint, shot at, right? All the like gang fights, like with there's groups of people you don't even know what's going on. So I mean, all of it kind of adds up, I think. And another big one was some years after the accident, I had a daughter, right, when I was about 20 years old. So all of these things add up, and then you have this little beautiful human, and you're like, okay, I definitely need to make some changes, right? So it just added up, and that's what I would say. It's an accumulation that's just like, all right, wake up, Q. You gotta do something different.
Yep. Okay. So you finally got the hint. Then how did you choose to get into, like NLP? Was that the first thing that you kind of went into, or was there a series of things that you led you to that?
Yeah, definitely a series of things. So, and it wasn't quick. This is over a period of
It rarely
years,
is.
right? Anyone who wants to build something great knows that it's typically not overnight. What is that saying about overnight successes? It takes what is it, 10, 20 years for an overnight success.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Exactly.
so definitely an accumulation and a sequence of things. So for one, I ended up working at the same hospital that I was hospitalized in when I got in my accident, and it was a different
Okay.
department, but I ended up working in the burn center, so helping
Oh,
burn adults and children who were victims of being burned. And
wow.
that was actually a big turning point for me when it came to coaching because I worked there for 8 years. So I'm seeing the worst of the worst, right? Because when you think about being burned, I still say that's one of the worst things that can happen to us physically. It's your skin, your biggest organ, you know, and, it affects you mentally, physically as well, right? Some people, they may be deformed, and it's like that's a real self image thing for a lot of people. So working with them, you learn a lot about the human condition, and working there, I started going into the patient's room when I wasn't doing therapy. And just to backtrack, I did physical and occupational therapy with patients in the burn unit. And I started going to their rooms when I wasn't doing therapy because they didn't want to see me most of the time because I was the bringer of pain. So I would start going to their rooms when I wasn't doing therapy and just asking them, "What do you want to do when you get out of here? What are your goals? What are you striving for when you get out?" And a lot of times they're like, "What are you talking about? I'm burned. My life is over." And that kind of hit me like, no, it's not over. This is why we're doing physical therapy. This is why we're stretching. This is why we're getting out of bed. And that was one of the really big reasons that I started getting into the mindset game because I realized after just talking to them, no real training at this point, neurolinguistic programming, hypno, nothing like that at this point, just being human. I noticed I saw big results in people with just tapping into the humanness and their motivations.
Right. Yeah, that's got to be, from outside. I've never worked in a burn unit, never been burned. I don't know anybody, but that's got to be one of the hardest things to deal with, just from, like you said, a physical standpoint. The pain has just got to be absolutely
Oh, yeah.
intense. Plus the psychological, if a lot of the burn victims are really disfigured, like you said. So I can see that being a common reaction to being burned, like life is
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Like, we get it. Like, it's like even working there and seeing it and knowing all about it, still, I mean, who knows how you would react, right?
I probably wouldn't react well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's that's got to be just absolutely tough to deal with. So that kind of led you into more the mindset thing
Hmm.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, then how did you get exposed to NLP?
Yeah, good question. So, um, that triggered me, right? Working in the burn center, it triggered me to say, wow, I'm getting results like working with their mind. And at this time, I had been kind of reading personal development. I had been getting into it myself just for my own personal development. I started reading, going to seminars, things like that at this time. Since I got introduced to personal development by a friend, by just listening to a CD from Jim Rohn. And from then on, I just started doing it for myself, and that did spiral me into searching, like, okay, how do I really learn how to do this? So I found my first life coaching course that was live in person, a certification program, and that's how I got into life coaching. And from there, when you're in that field, you just start hearing about more things and more things and more things, and that's how I heard about NLP. And it was just intriguing when I heard about it, and it just kept going. I became a lifelong learner of what creates lasting change. Right?
Right. Now that's really neat because I know from our previous conversations when we were hanging out and everything, I got exposed to NLP a long time ago, probably 2003, something like, or no, 2002, something like that. It was a long time ago, 20 plus years ago. But the way I got exposed was through, I was going through some real estate training. I was a real estate agent. And I was going through some training with Matthew Ferry, who's a big real estate trainer. But that's a lot of what he preaches is NLP, but how it's related to sales, conversational hypnosis, embedded suggestions, and all these different types of techniques that you can use to help influence people's decisions. So I kind of dove into that part of it. I loved that part of it. I didn't even realize that there was so much more to NLP. I thought it was just purely you know, suggestive techniques and different things like that, mirroring, mimicking, and all these different things, embedded commands within your language patterns and all that. And I was fascinated by it, but I didn't realize that that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to NLP. And you use a lot of the NLP with helping people overcome past traumas and different blocks that they have mentally so that they can move forward in whatever, whether it's be it in success or personal relationships and things like that,
Right?
correct?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So um, NLP is a is a modality that has a lot of different things in it. So they call it the study of excellence. That's what it's really called. And the reason it's called that is because how it was created is they took the best parts of certain modalities, right? Like family therapy, linguistics, right? Um,
Right.
Gestalt therapy. They took the best parts of some of these things, even hypnosis, right? And they modeled those people, the best of the best in those industries. They modeled those people and said, what are the language patterns these people use? What are the behaviors? What are the mannerisms? What is the body language these
Right.
people use to create these excellent results that they're creating? So that's really how NLP was formed, and that's why there's so many different components to it, right?
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, but you're right. So I use it in terms of helping people get what they want, right? Whether it's getting rid of things like anxiety, right, negative emotions, limiting beliefs, or getting what they want. Usually both. Getting their goals, being able to goal set.
A lot of times those
Yep,
those go hand in hand,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
That's very cool. And so is that what's your primary? I mean, I know, but like let everybody know kind of what your primary focus is right now. I know you've got a book, you do a lot of public speaking, but I know you and Jerry have your like
hmm
coaching service as well. So what is your primary focus right now?
Yeah, so our primary focus right now is coaching business leaders and or their teams. So, whether that's one-on-one with somebody who's, an entrepreneur or they're, a manager or executive in a company, or going in and coaching their teams because we can do this one-on-one and we can also do it for groups, right? So we specialize in everything subconscious work, right? Because that's where everything really happens. The subconscious is running the show. We say the conscious mind is the goal setter and the subconscious is the goal getter. So we have to tap into that subconscious. So we specialize in neurolinguistic programming, as we spoke about, hypnosis, something called timeline therapy that's really good for trauma, negative emotions, limiting beliefs, and something called mind shifting.
For somebody who's looking to, everybody's situation is unique, but as an overall sort of philosophy, for somebody who's looking to either get out of a situation, because a lot of the people that I talk to either come from something hard, like not necessarily a pleasant background, like
Sure.
yours, didn't come from something that screams success, or people who maybe have overcome something in their life. Something major happens in their life, whether it's, a medical issue or, whatever it is that brings them down. One of the reasons that I got really so interested in that from a mindset point of view is, I had the big thriving real estate business, and then in 2008 I got wiped out. And I was I was really shocked at I mean, I thought I was tougher than that mentally,
hmm
emotionally.
hmm
You know what I mean? But especially with guys, we attach so much of our identity and our sense of self-worth to what we do that when that's stripped away, a lot of times that's really tough for guys. So, people have gone through something in their life. What is kind of an overall philosophy that you would recommend for them to kind of overcome that and move on and get back to success, whatever that looks like?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's layered, right? It depends, I think, on the person and what their specific obstacle is. However, what I would say is it always goes back to focusing on what you want, and that's actually our motto, focus on what you want, So that's easier said than done, though, which is why people like us come into play, right? But it's basically you got to fill your head with the things that you want, that positive things that you want and things towards your goals, and not on what you don't want and the things that are holding you back. Because our thoughts, those create our emotions, right? Our thoughts, they conjure up emotions. You think a thought, you see an image, it brings up an emotion. Those emotions determine your behaviors, and those behaviors determine the results you get in every area of your life. So it starts with those thoughts and what are you focusing on? If you're feeling bad, inside, you're feeling sad, mad, angry, whatever, you have to think, what am I focusing on right now? And switch the focus. But like I said, easier said than done. But the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? You start creating those new pathways in your brain.
Right. It's a conscious habit because I noticed that with myself. What's that old saying? Where your focus goes, your energy flows,
Exactly.
right? So if you are constantly, and I found myself doing this, years ago after the whole real estate crash, I was just dwelling on that.
Hmm.
That was the majority of my thoughts. And, I did the same sort of thing. It took me a little bit longer to get there, but I did the same sort of thing. I tried to replace those thoughts with two things, actually. First one being what I wanted. And there's layers to that too. Like, what do you really
Yeah,
want, right?
getting clarity too, right?
Getting clarity on what you want and making sure that it's something that you want, in your soul, not something that society says you should want.
Mm,
Because you got to really want it.
right.
To me, that's one thing that I've noticed. And then the second thing that I really tried to focus on was gratitude,
Hmm.
being thankful for the things that I did have,
Yeah,
whether it be my health or whether, whatever it was, you can always find something to be thankful for.
always.
And that's another thing that early on I struggled with was, I said, okay, I'm going to do a gratitude journal, whatever. So I'd get up every morning and write, my goals, and I'd write down three things that I was grateful for. But when I stepped back objectively and looked at what I was doing after a while, I was just kind of going through the motions. I was writing down generic things I was grateful for. Oh, I'm grateful for my health. Oh, I'm grateful for my friends and family. There wasn't a lot of emotion
Yeah.
behind it. It was going through the motions. And, that's something that personally, it was really tough for me at the time to really be genuinely grateful for things because I was focused on all the lack or everything that happened and whatever, woe was me. So I really had to put some effort, some genuine
Yeah.
effort into finding things that I really, really felt grateful for, that I could that I could write down and be like, okay, yeah, I could feel it. It wasn't just a matter of mechanically writing
Sure.
down things that, should be grateful for. It was
Right.
something that I could actually feel. That made a huge difference.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And actually, when I give people certain exercises like that, um, I tell them for each word that you write down or each sentence or whatever it is, I want you to close your eyes for a second and picture yourself in that sense. If you're grateful for health, like really see yourself like, man, like yes, I see myself healthy, strong, and feel the emotions of it because that's the part that a lot of people are missing. You have to have that emotion with it. And that's a great point that you brought up.
Yeah, you gotta feel it.
Hmm. You got to feel it.
Gotta
You
feel
got
it.
to
And
feel it.
like, gotta feel it. And one thing that I did in order to make sure that I felt that was, you know, um, like take the people that you worked with in the burn unit. That's a whole different level of when you think of that, it's easy to be truly
Oh
grateful
yeah.
for your health.
Oh yeah.
Not just like, okay, I'm healthy. Whatever. Like, okay, it could be a lot worse.
Hmm.
You know, I can't remember. I think it was I think it was Andrew Tate who it was like, I'm going to sit you down. You're depressed. I'm going to have you sit down and explain to a terminal cancer patient how bad your
Oh
life is.
yeah. Yeah.
And then, if you still feel bad, then, or you can make that cancer patient really feel sorry for you, well, then, maybe we'll talk.
Right.
But,
Right.
it's comparison is always the thief of joy in many cases, but you have to realize that there are things to be grateful about, truly grateful. And if you have to look at what the alternative, in some cases, what other people are going through, to really realize how lucky you are in whatever aspect of your life it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And even when I because things come around full circle, right? So I've had the opportunity now, to coach burn survivors. I ended up speaking at the World Burn Congress one year,
I remember that.
and it's humbling. And at the same time, I can show anyone, someone who's burned, someone with certain ailments, um, that it's about how you feel internally. And sometimes you have to push that forward first. Sometimes you might not feel it on your own. You have to fake it till you make it sometimes. Like, for example,
Yeah.
there was a study done some years ago with clinically depressed individuals. And this study, what they had them do is look in the mirror, and I believe, don't quote me, somebody's going to be a researcher here, but it was something to the effect
Yeah.
of they looked in the mirror and they just had to smile every day for 20 minutes in the mirror, and something psychologically about them seeing their self smile and looking happy increased their happiness and decreased their clinical depression. So sometimes you have to fake it till you make it.
It's true. I mean, when you start, because I this is another thing that I had to be very cognizant of is like things like body language. That ties right into that. You know, if you're just like all the time as opposed to,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the physiology of your body has so much to do with your mental state.
Oh yeah.
And you know, even like working out, I just saw a study, and I was going to forward it to you, but oh, there's a hormone that's released by the muscles when you work out that actually has shown in clinical trials to, or clinical studies, to alleviate the symptoms of clinical depression.
Hmm.
That, and it's not, you know, it's not endorphins in your brain. It's actually something that is released by the muscles
Wow.
when they're under tension.
Wow.
And I need to find that. I'll send it over to you. But it's true though, because when you push yourself in the gym, it's very difficult to feel super down, super depressed, or anything else when you're giving it your all in a
Oh
workout.
yeah.
It's really
It's really
tough.
tough. Well, I mean, like you said, physiology, right? I mean, I've had people in seminars, um, put your shoulders up, sit up in your chair, put your shoulders up, lift your head high, and look up, smile, and try to think of something sad. It's almost impossible to do.
Ah, yeah. So your beard game is strong too, buddy. Yeah. Someday I'm gonna grow up and be able to fill in a beard
Oh
too.
man, I don't know. You got
One day.
that chiseled chin, man. You don't need to.
Hey, I got something. I don't have much for beard, so I gotta have something.
There we go.
It's true though, man. Like it's not to mention there's like I'm obviously I'm big on fitness, and you too. I know people can't really see it right now, but I saw you
Got a
on
little
Facebook the
slim,
other day
got a little
looking
slim
jacked. You've been putting in work.
bump.
Yeah, you know. Um, I there's just not to mention the temporary effects of working out, helping your mood, but then your health, your vitality, your self-image, your confidence, everything that comes from working out. So I mean, for me, that's been like a cornerstone of just about everything. Because when you look better, you feel better, you become more confident. It's a lot more difficult to be in a really down mood if you've got a six pack.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It's true,
tough,
right?
man. And the way people react to you is different as well. You know, so there's a lot of I had to play with a lot of these different things. You know, body language, and I going to the gym is never. I mean, there's times when I don't feel like going, and I force myself.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
discipline over motivation, always. But if people use that as a cornerstone to overcome whatever they're going through, if it's possible. Sometimes people are going through stuff that's a little different, then maybe they can't go to the gym and push it. But for a lot of stuff that's just mental or emotional, that can be a really, really good foundation or cornerstone
Yeah,
to build from.
definitely. You look good, you feel good, right?
It's tough. It's tough to be depressed when you got a six pack.
Yep, yep, yep.
Your arms are filling out the sleeves a little bit. You're like, hey, I
You're
feel
like,
good.
oh, get a couple compliments there, right? You're feeling good.
Yeah, all that helps, man. You start getting external compliments, that validation from other people goes a long ways too.
Yep,
It
definitely.
really does. We shouldn't rely, obviously, on external validation, but
Right.
it helps.
Yeah, it can. Yeah. And it's you have to work out all of life's muscles, right? It's like with that mindset stuff we're talking about. Um, it's work. It's just like when you go to the gym for the first time, you've never worked out. Somebody who does that and they pick up some weights, they're like, oh man, dude, my arms hurting, something's throbbing back here. Everybody's
Yeah, it
looking.
feels
I don't know how to
awkward.
do it right. So no, I'm done with this. I don't like working out. No, you keep going, you get better, and eventually you've got the strength that you wanted. It's the same thing with working out your mind. People try meditation
100%.
or some mindset techniques, right? Or some breathing stuff, whatever. At first, it's going to feel uncomfortable because you're not used to working those muscles.
Right. And that's conscious effort. A lot of people don't realize. I think I saw, what do we have, about 75,000 thoughts a day,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in that
Yep.
neighborhood.
Yep.
For most people, the majority of those are not positive
No.
thoughts, you know? So being cognizant of that and being, obviously we can't control our thoughts. People are always, oh, you can control your mind. No, their thoughts just come into your head
Mm-hmm.
all over. So I don't believe you can 100% control your thoughts. I don't think it's possible. What I do believe is you can choose which thoughts you give your energy to.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a big difference because I've noticed in myself and I noticed in a lot of people, they tend to give a lot of their energy toward the negative thoughts because they're the ones that really impact them
Yeah.
emotionally. So it's a natural sort of progression, which kind of can create that downward spiral or keep you where you're at.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It goes back to what you focus on expands, or what you focus on you feel. Yeah, you're gonna have thoughts that come through, but if they're not supportive to what you want or your goals, just let it pass by, right? The ones that are supportive to your goals, those are the ones you want to concentrate on, focus on.
Yep, those are the ones you let in.
Those are the ones you let in.
I heard an analogy like thoughts are like, if you're sitting in your house or you're a dog sitting in a house and there are cars going by all the time. You don't have to go bark at all of them.
Yep. Good one.
So, you know, that kind of stuck with me. You could choose which cars you want to bark at.
Exactly. Exactly. Love it.
So, yeah, it's good stuff. So, anything coming up as far as like where are you guys? What's the direction you guys are taking your business?
Yeah, so we're going into a lot of companies and working with teams lately. So we have something called the Team Effectiveness Review, which is really cool for teams. Really inexpensive and very effective. So for those that have a team, we go in. It goes in three parts. We do a profile personality assessment, which is pretty unique and different from any assessment that I've done in the past. It's very sticky, very memorable, and it can teach
Okay.
people to understand and communicate with others probably within the first couple minutes of meeting them, even faster sometimes. You can just tell
Oh
what
wow.
personality people are, which is really effective in sales, business, I mean relationships in general. So we do those profile assessments with the team. Then we do a best practices training, which lines the company up with the 28 best practices of top performing companies to see how they kind of line up. So you can see it, and it's visual, it's online. And then the last one we do is for a part of that team effectiveness review is we do a leadership game with the team. So it's fun. It's basically like group coaching with the team in a fun way. That's really cool. So,
Is that profile test that you give? Is that say similar to like the disc profile?
similar in that it does give you a personality type, right? But
Okay.
it's sticky, like I said. So basically, it works off of the elements. So things that we're all familiar with: fire, water, earth, and wind, right? So, for
Okay.
example, fire personalities, just right off the bat, usually direct, usually know what they want, and very results oriented. A lot of those are our CEOs, right? Um, Water, yep, that's one of mine. And they usually come in pairs as well. So you usually have two dominant. Um, so water. That one, those are calm people. They go with the flow. They're very loving, people oriented, right? They don't like to stir the pot too much. They go with the flow. Those are good for customer service, for example, because
Okay.
they can take a lot. They're like, oh no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. They can take a lot of pressure. You can yell at them sometimes, and they're like, okay, let's just calm down, right? Those are our waters. Winds.
I need those people in my life because that's not me.
Exactly. And that's a good point. That's what we show people in these trainings is how to work with the other elements. Um, Wins, for example, those are your influencers. They're always running around. They're doing networking events. They love to talk to people. Those are the people that'll talk to you in the elevator when everybody's quiet. Those are your influencers. Think about the wind, how it just flows and goes with whatever. They're very innovative, creative, but sometimes they need structure, which goes to the next one, which is Earth. Earth personalities, they're very structured, they're grounded, right? They need stability, they need organization. So those are the four elements. But just by telling you that, you would probably know some people in your life. Oh, yep, that's a wind, that's a fire, that's an earth, or what you are, right? You're like fire, right? Like mine, I'm fire and
Yep.
wind, and you could probably see that. I could be direct, and I'm results oriented. That's the fire in me. The wind is I'm a networker. I'm always out. I'm always talking to people. you know, I,
Yeah, you are never in. You are always
there
out.
you go.
You are meeting
There you
people and
go.
doing your thing.
So yeah, that's what we're doing for teams right now, which is really cool.
Well, now you got me wondering. I know I'm fire. I wonder what else. I'm definitely not water, probably not wind. Maybe a touch of earth in me.
Maybe. Well, and here's the thing: we have all of them in us. We have all of them in us.
Of
There's
course.
just two that
Of
are
course.
typically more dominant, right? And anybody can be a leader in any of these. It's just a matter of how they lead. Some leaders that are earth, they're the
Yep.
organized leaders. They're structured, they're organized, right? The fire leaders, they're direct. They're like, hey, let's get results. I don't care what's going on. We need the results, right? They're the winds. They're
Yep.
like innovative. They're like, oh, let's try it. Let's get these other people to come in and try marketing with them. Let's do this. Let's do that, right? So there's
Yep.
strong points, and then there's the weaker points of all of them, right?
Yep. Yeah, there's not like one is better than the
Yep.
other. It's just different.
Exactly.
There's pros and cons to each one.
Exactly.
Because I know I can see it myself. I can see the pros and cons
Yeah,
because
definitely.
organization is also not my strong
Definitely.
point.
And through our trainings and our coaching with it, we show you how to be at your best in your element. Because the point is, you want to be able to be flexible. And if you need to be a water at sometimes, you want to be able to do that. You want to be able to
Yeah.
go into wind and be innovative and go with the flow sometimes. But sometimes you have to be structured, and it's like, no, we have to buckle down. We have to write this stuff down, and we have to create a plan. Sometimes,
Yep. Yeah, you got to have elements of all of them.
Exactly.
And I've noticed like so I'm bringing this podcast on the road. So I'm going to be like I'm in Minnesota right now, and next week I'll be in Miami for a couple weeks, and then I go from Miami to Spain. I'm going to hang out in Marbella for a little
Nice.
bit, probably a week or two, something like that. I've heard nothing but good about the south coast of Spain, so I'm going to go check that out, and then from there I'm going to Thailand.
Ooh.
And what I've noticed after that, I have no plan
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. It's just wherever the winds may take
Mm-hmm.
me. But I've also noticed that, especially when doing things like this podcast, a little structure and a little organization is fine. Because right now I'm at my mom and dad's house, so I just set up a makeshift studio
Yep.
in one of the bedrooms, and had to get the internet right and this the background, and I just got a sheet,
There we go. Hey,
and
you got to
so
make it
it's
happen. That sounds like some fire right there. It's just like, let's get the result going.
yeah, yeah. But then from what I've experienced in setting this up, I'm like, okay, now if I'm gonna be in Miami, what's my internet gonna look like, and what's my background gonna be? So going from place to place to place has got me a little. I mean, I'll make it happen,
Oh yeah.
but it's really kind of a challenge to try and figure out. That's where I need I think that the part of me that needs a little bit of structure
Mm-hmm.
because there's virtually no structure and it's putting me a little on
Yep.
edge.
Yep.
But then the fire part of me is like, whatever, we'll make it
Yeah,
happen.
exactly.
Whatever. Shut up, Earth.
Yep, yep.
so, so yeah, very cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time and think on these things.
Yes, yep.
Your book, if you want to give a little.
Meant for daily motivation, and it has a journal with it, so you write down goals, action steps, things related to the one day because it's a day at a time, so it's really a 99-day transformation
Right, and people can get that on Amazon.
on Amazon. On Amazon, that's right.
Okay, so if you're interested in that, I have the book. It's really good. It kind of fits in with my own personal philosophy because with me, I'm very much a Kaizen sort of guy, just 1% improvement, 1%
Hmm.
improvement every single day. Win the day. And, you know, if you just focus on winning that day, you win enough days, you win the week. You win enough weeks, you win the month. You win months, you win the years. And then you win at life.
Very.
So it all starts with the day. So that's why, like that book also, right? So check it out. If you're looking at this podcast, check it out. Think on these things. Quentin McCain, Coach Q. And once again, appreciate your time, man. Always a pleasure. I was looking forward to having you on here for a
Yeah,
while.
always a pleasure. Anytime, my man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if I get through Phoenix, which I don't know when that would be at this point, but yeah, definitely gotta hook up, man.
Definitely.
All right, brother. Well, hey, I'm gonna let you go. And again, thank you very much. And for everybody else, stay tuned. There'll be more podcasts coming. Thanks, Q.